For over 2 decades, Wes Anderson has consistently made films that decoratively glean on the big screen, tell compelling stories about idiosyncratic characters, employ aesthetically appealing set designs, enchanting color coordination, and stories with powerful universal themes including family, dysfunction, and affliction. These cinematic trademarks have elevated Anderson to auteur status. Born and raised in Houston, Texas by a mother who was a realtor and archeologist, and a father who worked in advertising, Anderson picked up on what makes things appealing to look at and how to design beautifully. The second of 3 boys, one later became a physician and the other an artist, Anderson lived in a seemingly nuclear family until his parents divorced at the age of 8, which serves as a root to common themes in his films. He later attended the University of Texas at Austin, along with Owen Wilson, and earned a degree in philosophy, but said he loved creative writing classes the most, and even when he wasn't in those, he would still spend a lot of his class time writing short stories. After graduating, Anderson would go on with brothers Owen Wilson and Luke Wilson to make their first short film. Anderson released a short film titled Bottle Rocket in 1994, starring friends from college Owen Wilson and Luke Wilson, and submitted it to film festivals around Texas. After garnering some positive attention, they were able to secure funding for a feature-length version of the film with the same name and same unknown actors in the lead roles. They were also able to attract the attention of one of America's most recognizable actors from groundbreaking films such as The Godfather and Stephen King's Misery, James Caan, which elevated them to a more legitimate status. The film was a critical success, even being hailed by Martin Scorsese as one of his top 10 movies of the 90s, but did poor commercially during its theatrical release. However, the film has since developed a massive fan base with strong DVD and Blu-ray sales. Anderson and Owen Wilson then co-wrote Rushmore, which Anderson directed. The film introduced future A-list actor, musician, and Fargo star Jason Schwartzman, who starred alongside On the Rocks lead Bill Murray, who would accompany Anderson in almost every one of his films following that. This was the film that raised Anderson's artistic plateau, allowing him to have a soundtrack mixed with classic songs and quirky orchestral compositions, make peculiar yet suave uniforms, and make elaborate set designs, all elements that have been included in every one of his later films. The film deals with his themes of status, family dysfunction, and romance, as 2 very unlikely rivals battle for the woman they love. Although the film is overall a comedy, full of sharp and witty dialogue and silly pranks, there's a lot of heart to it that rounds the film off as being a moving coming-of-age story.
I think it's, if we're making any type of statements, that it's nice to have, that yes, the dream's all wrong, but there's something kind of attractive about somebody who has a vitality and kind of believes in something.
Bill Murray earned a Golden Globe for his performance as Herman Bloom, a depressed oil tycoon. It was a pivotal film in Anderson and Schwartzman's careers that set the wheels in motion for 2 incredibly successful careers. Anderson's follow-up to Rushmore, The Royal Tenenbaums, instituted an ongoing theme in Anderson's movies of familial relationships and the indispositions that accumulate with them along the way.
I think it's all part of trying to create the world that these characters live in, a world that's not quite our normal reality.
The roster of A-list superstars in this film shows that Anderson's work was becoming well respected at the time, building him a reputation that allured the greatest actors. In this unconventional 3-act, considerably even hyperlink structure, we follow the lives of the Tenenbaum family, a real-life family that Anderson knows and the people they are close to. The cast includes greats such as Gene Hackman, Angelica Houston, Ben Stiller, Gwyneth Paltrow, and of course Anderson's regulars, the Wilson brothers and Bill Murray. The film was commended by critics and earned Anderson and Owen Wilson their first Oscar nomination for Best Screenplay. It was also the most commercially successful of Anderson's films for 11 years. As Anderson continued to develop his artistic voice, he created even more distinct films that delved heavier into his most consistent cinematic trademarks. After his explosive introduction to the movie industry, Anderson made The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou and The Darjeeling Limited. There were substantial motifs of family dysfunction, repairing relationships, and overcoming hardship to achieve self-satisfaction in each film, and all beautifully picturesque in every shot. These were the 2 films where Anderson really started to put the pieces together on who he wanted to be as an artist, and blossomed him into the wholesome, distinct, universally beloved auteur that's enchanted critics and captivated audiences more than almost any other filmmaker. Anderson didn't reach the same critical and commercial heights as he did with his early films until his first animated feature, Fantastic Mr. Fox, an adaptation of Roald Dahl's novel, and co-written with Oscar-nominated filmmaker Noah Baumbach. The film is mainly in stop motion and includes a typical Anderson all-star cast.
Mud is not easy in stop motion. We ended up having no green and almost no blue. If you take green and blue out, it looks like this.
The film was nominated for 2 Oscars, Best Animated Feature, and Oscar-winning composer Alexander Desplat, who would go on to work with Anderson regularly as well, earned the film a Best Original Score nomination. The movie slingshotted Anderson to the forefront of trusted writer-directors not just amongst film buffs, but general audiences too. It was this film that set up the critical and most commercially successful film of his since The Royal Tenenbaums. Known to be as the quintessential Wes Anderson film to that point, Moonrise Kingdom was also his most financially triumphant, earning almost $70 million worldwide on an estimated $16 million budget. Continuing the pattern of Anderson putting the biggest stars of interest to him in lead roles, Bruce Willis, Edward Norton, and Frances McDormand led this giant cast in a hyperlinked structured film. The film follows a young couple who run away together from their camps, ensuing a massive search party from their New England town. Anderson co-wrote the film with Roman Coppola, with their screenplay earning them an Oscar nomination. 2 years later, Anderson released his masterpiece to date, The Grand Budapest Hotel. Inspired by the writings of Austrian novelist Stefan Zweig, Anderson adapted the story and wrote the screenplay alone, the first time he took full charge of the writing responsibilities alone.
A movie like this, the design of the movie is almost all inspired by things in real life.
It was a success, with the film grossing more than triple as much as any of his previous films, along with earning 9 Oscar nominations and clinching 4 of them. Anderson reached the status of an icon. The cinematography, set design, comedy, and original score were sensatiously reflective of Anderson's style, polished and molded by his genius collaborators. The cast includes dozens of A-list stars, is gorgeously color-coordinated, and is charming to every one of the senses from start to finish. Anderson's most recent feature was Isle of Dogs, a stop-motion film like Fantastic Mr. Fox that follows a young Japanese boy searching for his dog.
Kurosawa and Miyazaki, Hokusai and Hiroshige, the printmakers, I think our greatest inspirations are those movies, those pictures.
It's a charming film with a story unlike most of his previous work, but has enough Anderson elements to vividly show it's his. The film earned 2 Oscar nominations and grossed more than his last stop-motion film. It was almost the perfect end to Anderson's cinematic decade, but another one of his films was supposed to be released in theaters before the COVID-19 pandemic, which would have been his last of the 2010s. The French Dispatch looks more Anderson-esque than ever, and has star-studded cast, Timothée Chalamet, Angelica Houston, Tilda Swinton, and many other Anderson regulars. The film is now set to release in theaters in January of 2021.